Afternoon delight. Afternoon delight.
That was really bad.
Welcome to the Doctor DC Podcast. My name is Colin. Next to me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
And as always, we are joined by our producer, Richard.
Hoi hoi.
Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC comics and movies while fielding questions from listeners like you, while I try to find more ways to look like a cross between Russell Brand and Dudley Do-Right.
It's that, and then everything else.
I like that a lot.
That was a good What Colin Does. If you want to send your own What Colin Does, you can... What are we doing? Do you want to just like open up the floodgates?
Well, I mean, we can open up the floodgates, but...
Because I feel like no one's doing it. And
I want those 5-star. Here's what you can do. You go to iTunes, you give us a 5-star review, you include a What Colin Does in the comments, and we'll make him read it. He doesn't get a choice.
Or I keep writing really funny, terrible ones, and we'll see where that goes, because it's going to get dark, people.
I don't know that you can call your own writing funny.
No, it is. It's great.
Okay.
I think it's
people don't realize how funny I am.
I think it's actually going to get dark soon because a lot of it's been really nice. And I feel like if we
I was heading in that, my mindset was just in a good mood because a lot of great things happened today, so I was in a good mood otherwise.
But yeah,
You're lucky.
You can send your own in. Just attach it to a 5-star review on iTunes. Those reviews help us out a lot because gets us a little higher in the rankings, makes it easier for new people to find us.
Yeah, iTunes kind of sucks though. So if you do it, maybe you can send us a little like DM or something, letting us know. You can even attach what you wrote to it, just so that we can say it. And because sometimes it seems like it takes weeks or months. And
yeah, that's a really good idea. Shit on iTunes.
It's what they're not listening.
Maybe they are.
Yeah, there's actually a filter that every time we upload on the podcast, they go to say anything.
Not these guys.
No, not this time. Yeah.
Like, these guys, they're good dudes.
Yeah.
They're not going to shit on us. Boom, you got shit on. So anyways, in news, Shazam release date confirmed by director David F. Sandberg.
Yeah, so Shazam will be the next DC movie to come out after Aquaman. So it's Justice League coming out in less than a month now. And then Aquaman will be a year after that.
That's crazy.
December 2018. And then Shazam will be April 2019. So it will come out between Aquaman and Wonder Woman 2.
That's so soon.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like they're still casting it, aren't they?
Yeah, but they have a script treatment already. And yeah.
I mean, I guess it doesn't take that long to film, but...
It depends what they're doing with it.
Yeah, I wonder how, like, because I would love for them to see... I'd love to see them start doing, like, smaller... Like smaller movie, like more indie style stuff, and then do bigger ones.
I mean, I think in general DC is leaning more on the like director.
That's
like style. Like they'll have less of a house style.
It's a very Warner Brothers kind of thing in general
than Marvel does. So I think there's a little bit of that in there anyway. But yeah, I mean, like if also 2019 is still like a ways away. That's still like a decent amount of time to make a movie. It's not like Suicide Squad where they like wrote a script in 6 weeks, like filmed it in 4 months, and then the movie came out.
God, was it really that quick?
Well, I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, it was very quick.
Weird. Anyways, speaking of Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman movie has been confirmed to be an origin story, which I think we all kind of assumed.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit. So Jason Momoa had said that the Aquaman that shows up in Justice League isn't fully the Aquaman of the comics. He's not the king of Atlantis yet or things like that.
But he's the king of our hearts.
Yes, he is.
Jason Momoa, my hero.
Jason Momoa's Mimosa Samosas.
That's right.
Yeah, so...
Samosa.
Basically, that Aquaman movie, I guess, in addition to sort of charting his course to becoming the king of Atlantis, will also explore like his actual origins. And in the sense that he isn't the king yet and will become the king, it's kind of an origin story. We'll already have seen him in action doing things, but this will really be him becoming like the full version of Aquaman.
So do you think it's going to be like it's going to be post and like pre Justice League?
I got to imagine there's some kind of flashbacks in there. That's kind of typical for movies. I mean, in the way that Wonder Woman had flashbacks, right? But I think, yes, like chronologically, I imagine the events of it taking place post Justice League.
So like he wasn't born in the water, right? Like,
no, he's born on land.
so like, was it like a 300, like this is like somebody like they were just like, oh, this baby isn't right, and threw him off a cliff into the water? And
like his father and like mother knew who each other were. Like he was human, she was Atlantean, and they both knew that.
Okay.
And then he's raised by his father on land,
but only on the weekends.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he still got to have time to party, right?
It's a very complicated, like, legal settlement.
Yeah,
and he
because
goes to see him at the cracker factory.
Because there's no rules in the water, and on land, everything's owned by someone else.
Well, I mean, there are rules in the water because Atlantis is the dominion of the sea.
But what happens in the water stays in the water.
That's why,
unless it's a bubble.
That's why they did it on the land.
That's a science show. Gas is less dense than liquid.
Shut up.
Yeah, no one cares about your stupid jokes.
Shut your goddamn mouth.
So at any rate, yes, Aquaman will be a bit of an origin story in that we won't have seen like that full comic version of Aquaman yet, but also I've got to imagine it'll flash back to him as a child, like young Arthur, and
just like staring into the water, being like, I don't know why I'm pulled into here so much.
Yeah, brooding.
Yes.
Would it be funny if they used one
of his... like, you can't go in the water.
Yeah, there'll just be a light in the sea, and it'll be like the aqua signal. And we'll have to...
Wouldn't it be really funny if they actually used one of Jason Momoa's actual kids to play young...
Oh, God, those kids are super cute, too.
They totally could.
They're super rad-looking humans. Like, that'd be so cool if they just did that.
I mean, this is slightly different news, but they've already wrapped principal photography on Aquaman.
That's right, yeah.
So... it's a little late to be suggesting casting, but like maybe they've done that already.
Yeah. He's just presuming.
Yeah, they might have.
I don't like the way you're twisting that mustache now. It's very weird.
Yeah, well, learn to love it. Raven goes solo in Daughter of Darkness.
Yep, yeah. Raven's getting, getting her own little mini series.
That's so Raven.
Oh, that was Raven. What you guys did there.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually practiced that for the last 6 hours.
There's actually been quite a number of little like mini series for maybe like less popular or sort of side characters lately. Like there's a new Ragman miniseries. There's a Black Lightning miniseries. There's been a Deadman miniseries. There's I think there's a Etrigan the Demon miniseries coming. There's a bunch of these characters are getting little sort of 6-issue kind of arcs. So Raven is also getting one. And Raven, for those who aren't familiar, is a member of the
sassy young black girl.
Wrong Raven. But she's a member of the Teen Titans. She has like demonic heritage, but she's a hero and she's an empath and she's a powerful magic user.
You always do that.
Explain things.
Knock their mic stand.
No one noticed.
I could hear it in Jessica's like thing, the interview. It was just like and then boom.
I just like that ambiance. It's like a bell in the distance.
Okay.
So Justice League exclusive first looks by AT&T.
Yeah, so they've been putting out these really cool little videos.
Like featurettes?
Yeah, they're little like maybe 2-3 minute things where they're featuring a particular character and they're showing clips from the movie and some clips that aren't in the trailers, like some actual new footage. Mm-hmm. And then in between they're showing like what their powers are and like what their real name is. So it's like a little primer on a character before you go into the movie. So they've
Optimus primer?
Yeah. Different movie. So they've done one for The Flash and Aquaman and then Cyborg. His I think just came out today or they're great. They're little like quick intros to these characters for those who might not be familiar, or for those who are familiar with the comic versions. It's a nice way to get a sense of what the film version is going to be like. And I imagine they're going to keep putting them out, so like we'll probably get a Wonder Woman one and a Batman one. They'll probably play it pretty coy. We probably won't get a Supes one because they're being pretty secretive about how Superman
I love that like they're still not like, well, maybe it's just like he's going on tour with them right now for the Justice League.
Yeah, I mean like they know people aren't stupid. Like everyone knows he's in the movie. Like
I was just like looking on Reddit today, and everybody's just like, oh guys, like he's going on tour with them. I wonder what it means.
Yeah, no, I know totally. No, I mean everyone knows Superman's coming back, but I'm actually pretty impressed with Warner Brothers that they've been very good about keeping under wraps how he comes back, like what manner, like how early in the movie, like any of that stuff, you know. There were so many criticisms of like the Batman versus Superman trailers of giving away too much, like spoiling Doomsday and stuff like that. And they've kind of done the opposite on this one. Like we know very, very little about Superman in this movie. So, yeah.
And in other Justice League news, they've confirmed that it is the shortest DCEU film to date.
Is it actually confirmed?
Does anyone give a shit?
There have been like so many different reports and different people giving different runtimes. But long story short, the runtime is likely somewhere in the vicinity of 121 minutes, which is
just like the bare minimum,
which is like 2 hours.
Yeah.
For considering what the DCEU has been so far, that is short. It will actually make it the shortest DCEU movie. I don't necessarily, that's not necessarily a problem though. Like if you can imagine the internet not reacting well, it's become like a real issue for people. They're like, you can't possibly tell a Justice League story in 2 hours. Like you can,
you just don't have to tell a million other like side stories to like get to it.
Precisely. So I imagine that what's happened is a lot of those extra things that were in there that Zack Snyder does that I admittedly enjoy, of sort of filling out the world and providing a little more like character context and stuff like that, but are not necessarily driving the plot forward. Those have probably been cut, and it's probably fine. And even more probably, we'll be able to get a extended cut at some point.
You goddamn right we will. And I want a black and white version too.
Yeah, and HD and
commentary.
And hologram.
And standard definition. I want a worse version.
VHS.
Yeah, I want that shit in mono.
I want something grainy. Yeah, in mono.
That's sweet VHS grain.
But you know what I mean? Like, again, it's that I can't believe I say this as much as I do, but like, we don't know, man. Like, we haven't seen the movie. Like, maybe 2 hours isn't enough. Maybe it sucks. Maybe 2 hours is like too much. Or maybe it's perfect. We literally can't know that until we see it.
Maybe dead is better.
What's that a callback to?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So Kieran Hines confirms Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle?
So Kieran Hines does confirm that Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle.
Yeah, that's what I said. Kieran Hines.
Yeah. So Kieran Hines is he's an Irish actor. He's probably best known for playing
nothing.
Caesar in HBO's Rome.
Oh, didn't see it.
He was also in There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, no, didn't see that one either.
What character?
He's like the
short Irish one,
like the
like red hair, the stupid face.
Not Paul.
Jeez,
Jesus.
I'm Irish Norwegian. I can say what I want.
He's not Daniel Day-Lewis or Paul Dano. He's like the other guy that runs the rig with him.
Oh, okay, yeah,
yeah.
So did I nail the description or no?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
No, but though finding out what you are now makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty terrible.
You very much look like, especially with that mustache and the long hair, you really do look like Irish Norwegian.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know that those. Maybe.
Anyways,
I'm not as prepared.
Look at that fishy Mick.
Okay, that's our word. You can't say that.
Jesus Christ. Oh,
guys, you can't be racist against white people. When you guys get real quiet, it makes me sound like I'm a terrible person.
What do you mean sound like?
This is my play to get it edited out.
This is the part where I just put applause in. Just roar and just applause.
At any
That would
rate,
actually be really funny.
Kieran Hines is the actor who will be playing Steppenwolf, the villain in the Justice League movie. And in the comics, Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle. And there was a little bit of a rumor that they might have actually like flipped that relationship for the DCU, that he might have actually been like Darkseid's nephew. But he confirms that that's not the case. It's comic accurate. He's Darkseid's uncle, and he's sort of like weary and trying to get out from under Darkseid's boot, basically.
So this isn't a revenge story or anything?
Probably nothing quite that deep in this movie, but I think I think he sees his conquest of Earth as maybe a means to get out from underneath Darkseid.
And like Darkseid couldn't do it.
He has his own agenda, basically, in trying to conquer Earth. So, yeah.
Green Lantern Earth 1 cover released.
Yeah.
Have you seen this thing?
Yeah, it looks awesome.
God damn, it looks nice.
So the Earth 1 books are basically an opportunity to tell stories that don't necessarily have to be connected to each other in continuity, and they've all been sort of like reimagined origins of the main heroes so far. So there's been Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Teen Titans. And now Green Lantern is coming out, and basically it imagines a world where there hasn't been first contact with an alien species, and Hal Jordan is a fighter pilot who becomes an astronaut, and he ends up discovering this like ancient lost lantern ring. And one of the big changes that we know already for this story, as opposed to like main Green Lantern lore, is in the main continuity, if a Green Lantern dies, the ring leaves their finger and seeks out the next person in the sector with incredible willpower.
Yeah.
In this story, it's just a tool that anyone can use if they pick it up and find it.
Whoa.
So he actually finds it, doesn't seek him out. He finds it and becomes a Green Lantern. And I think it's implied too that the Green Lantern Corps itself may not exist anymore. Like it may have been like long since extinguished. So he's
really?
like the Green Lantern. But at any rate, yeah, these Earth 1 books have been like very, very cool retellings of some of these stories. So I'm pretty excited for this one. And it looks like it's drawing a lot on that sort of like alien, like Ridley Scott, like alien.
I was just going to say, it looks a lot like the Alien cover.
Yeah, and I think
/ Mass Effect.
I think the creators have actually even said as much. That's part of the influence for like the style of the book. So
I've never like been a Green Lantern reader, but this makes me want to read this series. I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll be getting it, so I'll let you read it.
Oh joy!
So this week's theme is fear.
Fear.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do one of those. So we took some questions from Twitter.
No fun.
I am Grant Richter says, not so much a question, but I thought the Doom Patrol and Titans villain phobia deserved a mention. Even though it hasn't really fit into any of the categories this month, I'd love it if you could talk about Simon Dark for Doc-Tober.
Right. So 2 different things in there.
Right. Yeah, of course.
I'll talk very briefly about Simon Dark first, because, yeah, it's not like strictly speaking related to fear, but Simon Dark himself
sounds like a cheery guy. I don't know.
He may expose fears in you for
real
listeners.
Lighthearted kind of guy.
Yeah. Simon Dark is a vigilante in Gotham City. He had a very kind of short run of comics, but he's essentially like a Frankenstein type. He's composed of pieces of different bodies. Excuse me.
Like a Frankenstein?
Kind of, and like held together with like leather bands. But he's got like incredible healing power, which is like the opposite of a zombie.
Wait, hold on. You know the difference between Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, right? You know that Frankenstein was the doctor, not the monster.
Yes.
What? Yeah, I knew that.
Well, then act like it.
We get it, Colin. You read books.
Yeah, jeez.
Like real books.
Don't have to rub it in our face.
First, the Fahrenheit 451 thing.
Yeah, Jesus.
Mary Shelley, where you at? Oh, Shelley dead.
Oh.
What do you mean, probably? Yes.
I think you can confidently say yeah.
Imagine if Mary Shelley got Dr. Frankenstein.
You mean
Frankenstein's monstered?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought you meant like, does she become a mad scientist and create life?
Oh, or that.
Yeah.
At any rate, Simon Dark is sort of a Frankenstein's monster type. But he's got incredible like healing ability. He's got like
TI because he's a rubber band.
He's got like a photographic memory. He had like a relatively short run in comics, but he's kind of terrifying because he's made of different people's body parts. But he doesn't know who he is. Probably because he is an assemblage of others.
Many.
Yeah, exactly. There's not too, frankly, much more to Simon Dark than that. But that is an image that is like relatively scary, so it's definitely worth mentioning. The first part of that, Grant's question, though, is asking about Phobia. Yeah, so Phobia was a villain of the Doom Patrol. And basically, she's a form of telepath, and her psionic ability allows her to tap into the fear centers of other people's brains. And part of what that power allows her to do is like casting illusions of people's worst fears. So she can, she doesn't make things actually happen that they fear, but she can make them think they're happening. So she's basically using her psychic ability to dupe people into the thing that scares them the most, which is terrifying. It's funny that it's brought up in the context of the Doom Patrol, because the Doom Patrol are good guys who almost have their own kind of like horrifying looks and powers. Like Robot Man was a stunt driver who crashed, and now he's just like a human brain in a robot body. Like, that's kind of scary. There's the negative.
What's scarier is the lack of talent when they came up with that name.
The negative man is.
I beg to differ.
Such a downer. No, he's the negative man. Is basically, he looks like a mummy, like he's wrapped in bandages, but these bandages are treated because he is like radioactive. So unless he's wearing those bands, he'd like be giving other people cancer and stuff like that.
The goggles, they do nothing.
But then there's like a negative, like astral projection form of himself that can come out of his body, and then he can, but only for like an hour, and then he's stuck that way or something like that. So they all they're almost their own like worst fears, because the thing with the Doom Patrol is that they feel like they're cursed, like they're outcasts. Like they find they've got powers, but like they're pushed to the edges of society because of them. Like they're misfits. They think they're monsters, like the Frankenstein's monster. It's which is a good metaphor to bring in. So it's funny that it comes up in the context of the Doom Patrol, because they're kind of good guys who almost fit that bill. Like to the regular citizens of the DCU, the Doom Patrol are just as terrifying as some supervillains. But then, yeah, Phobia, if you can imagine people who are, like already maybe dealing with some of these issues, then to confront someone who can make them confront their own worst fears. And in some cases, those are probably versions of themselves. Like that's an actual challenge to overcome. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good adversary. Yeah. That's Phobia.
That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Moving along to Chad Bokelman.
Bokelman.
He has the most consistent little tag there.
By that, you mean twice?
Has it only been twice?
I think I've only done it twice now.
Still the most consistent.
Hey, Chad, if it's been more than twice, can you please let us know?
Bokel.
Hashtag 3 yet. No, sorry.
No, God, no.
Hashtag more than 2.
Jesus Christ.
It's a weird hashtag. Chad says, I've got it. Let's talk 3 of the deadliest, most fearsome Sinestro Corp members. Kryb,
Sinestro Corp has come up a lot. Sorry.
Carousel, and Romot Rue.
Sorry, say them one more time.
Kryb.
Right.
Carousel.
Right.
That's what I said.
Right.
And Romot Rue.
Right. So, the Sinestro Corps.
And now you're going to crack my name?
Actually, no. Okay. You did pretty well there.
Close enough.
So the Sinestro Corps, they are the Yellow Lanterns. So the Green Lanterns draw their power from the green light of willpower. The Yellow Lanterns draw their power from the yellow light of fear. So it's powered by their ability to instill fear in others. That's how they make constructs. So let's start with the first one, Kryb. Kryb is this terrifying alien that is a member of the Sinestro Corps, and basically the Sinestro Corps at one point makes this decision to go after the families of the Green Lanterns. They're enemies of the Green Lanterns anyway, but they decide that they're going to start attacking their families. And what Kryb does specifically is go after like married or just like parental Green Lanterns, kill them, and then steal their children. And keeps their children in this sort of, like Kryb has this almost like a cage kind of back.
Like a crib, for example?
I know that's the play on words. I was trying to like, you know how you're not supposed to use the word in the definition of the word? God damn it. Yes, a Kryb.
He invented a game called Cribbage, and it makes everyone each other's worst enemies.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the comic is when he goes, all right, so this is where the magic happens.
It's Kryb.
Nice. Nice. MTV Cribs.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
So Cristal only in his fridge.
Kryb is a she.
Whoa.
Steals these children. There's some really...
This is where the magic happens.
There's some
Gender bias on my side.
But Kryb is terrifying because, I mean, like if you're a parent, that's maybe your worst fear, that something will happen to your child and you won't be there to do anything about it. You
Your
won't be
kid's
there
gonna
to
get
help.
baby snatched in a crib.
And
I meant like help them.
yeah, and Kryb is like the manifestation of that. There's a point in one comic, and it gets like really like uncomfortably dark sometimes. There's a point in one comic where there's a Green Lantern who's fighting Kryb, and then it's revealed that she herself is this Green Lantern is pregnant, and Kryb basically like tries to Caesarian her to take the kid.
Oh.
It's super messed up. Kryb eventually is killed, I think during Blackest Night.
Yikes.
But yeah, so Kryb is one very terrifying member of the Sinestro Corps. The next one, Carousil. Carousil, I mean, these are all aliens, but this one, her parents are...
You mean with normal names like that?
Yeah. Her parents are killed, and she is like kind of left in this jungle, and then she's raised by these three like wild beasts. So she is this very like animalistic, kind of feral character, and she's like sharpened her own teeth to be more like the beasts and things like that. And basically, she is just like this sort of embodiment of carnage and that sort of like feral, like wild kind of side. And her favorite construct to make are the three beasts. She's usually circled by these three beasts, which is why she's called Carousil, because she is reminiscent of a demonic carousel.
Wow.
Yeah. Try naming like 100 different aliens. You're going to start making like Earth puns.
Oh, no, it's a baby one. Kryb. The carousel things. Carousel. Whatever. Fucking.
This is a slight detour, but there's a Green Lantern who's from an alien race that is like a rectangular prism, and that Green Lantern's name is B'_OX. It's Box.
Jesus. That writer patted himself on the back that day.
Yeah. At any rate, so Carousil is extremely terrifying because she has these sort of savage beast constructs, and she herself is also like that. And then the final one is Romat Rue. Romat Rue was actually, this is a bit of a callback to our serial killer episode. There was a question at the end of that one, which was, has there ever been a serial killer that's gotten powers? Romat Rue was already a serial killer, notorious for murdering like hundreds or thousands of children on his home world. And he was so...
His name's Anakin.
And the younglings. And he was so feared that a Sinestro ring found him and like broke him out of prison. So now he's the serial killer with one of the most powerful weapons in the universe. And Romat Rue is extremely loyal to the Sinestro Corps. The Sinestro Corps has lots of power struggles in it, but he's one of the ones who's been sort of consistently loyal to Sinestro himself, which is also scary. I mean, you wouldn't want him to be in charge, but as like a dog to be turned loose by Sinestro, he's a very, very kind of terrifying weapon that way.
Yeah.
So those are three members of basically like the Fear Lanterns. And I think even without their rings, each of them are terrifying anyway. I mean, that's why the rings found them, but more so than someone like in like a physical sense, more than someone like Sinestro. Like Sinestro wasn't a serial killer before he was a Green Lantern, and then before he was a Yellow Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
But he could instill great fear. But these particular characters, Kryb and Carousil and Romat Rue, were like, those are people or aliens or whatever that would keep you up at night anyway. And then they're granted this like powerful weapon to amplify and like feed off. And
so why does it exist?
The Sinestro Corps?
Like, why do the Yellow Lantern?
Why do they exist?
Yes.
Sinestro harnesses the power of the yellow light and makes his own core. Like, they're called the Sinestro core.
Okay.
It's not like a thing that exists independently. Like, Sinestro started them because he harnesses the yellow light first and then makes a bunch of rings, and then so that becomes his army, basically.
Does he wield that army?
He does, yeah. There's a whole arc called the Sinestro Corps War where they basically battle for Earth against the Green Lanterns, and it's a really crazy story. It's really good, though.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm starting to like Green Lantern more, I'll tell you.
Do you know, I think like, Chad talked about it, too. Like, there's a lot.
Because I'm
there.
I'm a sci-fi guy, and I'm enjoying.
It's
pretty fly for a
it's an
sci-fi
interesting it's an interesting combination of space cop and space opera. Like, there's like the big
space
scale.
opera.
I like that.
You're welcome, nerds of the internet.
So yeah, I mean, Chad Bokelman
In this room.
for those who are listening that aren't aware, is like he's one of the hosts of the Lantern Cast. So Chad knows his Lantern stuff.
Oh, so he's a little biased.
So, well, but also he already knows the answers to these questions.
He just wants to hear us stumble around.
He just wants to hear me say space opera.
Yes, that's really that's what everybody.
He was really looking
But
for.
what I will say is that these are characters that even like before I was reading stories, like retroactively going back and reading Sinestro Corps War and stuff like that, these were characters that had like crossed my radar.
Mm-hmm.
They're not main characters. They're definitely like secondary, tertiary kind of characters, but they sort of have their own like internal reputation within the lore. So like they'll be referenced in other stories and things like that. And like the Sinestro Corps in general is not that old in terms of comics. Like, it's maybe like a decade or so old. So a lot of these characters are relatively new. But they've done a really good job of giving lots of like backstory and giving lots of like context for who all of this is sort of extended Green Lantern, universe, who they all are. And yeah.
Cool. This next name is my favorite.
Yeah, I was reading it and I was like, I'm trying to figure it out. You just wrote this question.
No. This was basically I saw a response from the doctor to this person, but we couldn't actually find the actual question. So this was the doctor's summation of what that question was from what his memory was.
So the Twitter handle, or the name, I suppose, is Dungeons and Dream Daddy.
That's my favorite thing in the world. I'm so. Do you know what Dream Daddy is?
No, is that a thing?
It's an app. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Dream Daddy, where it basically the whole. I'm pretty sure it's the same app where it's a dad dating app.
Oh,
so it's basically for dad.
That's nice.
Not real life. It's like a game.
What?
Oh, I just thought it was like if you were a single dad.
No.
It was tough to meet people. I just thought that was a nice idea.
It's a game. It's a game from the YouTube channel Game Grumps.
Oh.
And what the concept is basically.
That's the saddest O I've ever heard.
Well, because I thought that was like a market that was underserved. I thought that was kind of nice.
I guess we have our new app.
Yeah, exactly. No, so what the concept is basically it's a dad who has like a daughter and your wife dies, and you decide that you want to pursue a life as a gay man.
Oh,
yes, and so you try to date other dads.
What?
Okay, but this is just a game. It's not an actual app. Because it should be an actual app.
It's a game, but an app is a game.
Actually, you know what? I'm sure that there's plenty of dating apps out there for people. I don't think we need an extra one just for like single widowed dads. I feel like that might be a pretty small market.
It's Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator.
Huh. I've never heard of that. Okay, so Dungeons and Dream Daddy. What does...
So it's the mates. How many times has Batman wielded a Sinestro Corps ring? And... have any other characters from Gotham done the same?
Right.
Great question.
It is. So, yeah, Batman very famously uses fear as a tool. So wouldn't he make a great member of the Fear Lanterns of the Sinestro Corps? And the answer is that it's happened a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pre-Flashpoint story where a Sinestro Corps ring actually finds Batman, seeks him out.
Really?
Because of his ability to instill great fear. But he resists it. Batman knows who Sinestro is.
Yeah, he
knows what he's about.
Doesn't want to be a bad guy.
Batman resists it. And Sinestro tries to kind of goad him into it, be like, this could be like your tool for ultimate justice, blah, 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 blah. And Batman fights it basically, and that's pretty much the end of that.
Because if he wears the ring, does Sinestro control him?
Not outright, but what the ring is doing is feeding on your own ability to instill fear, but also feeding on your fear. So it's like a bit of like a feedback loop,
kind of like the one ring to rule them all kind of situation, where you puts it on and
I mean
you have power, but also scary shit.
A little in some ways, yeah. Because you're channeling the power, like the actual like physical manifestation of fear, which is this like yellow light, and that's passing through you. Yeah, you would succumb to it, right? That's the whole thing with the Green Lanterns, is that you can't give in to fear. You have to overcome it. So if fear is constantly running through you, then yeah, you can make the argument that you become a bit of a slave to it. Maybe not to Sinestro himself, but to what the ring makes you do, or things like that.
And so then maybe you could be persuaded to do other things.
Exactly. I think that's maybe more the argument than anything. So that's a pre-Flashpoint story where that happens. In post-Flashpoint, like New 52, during Forever Evil, the crime syndicate from Earth 3 invades and basically like takes the Justice League out. They trap them in the Firestorm Matrix, except for Batman, who manages to escape because he's Batman.
They took our James!
So Batman goes to the Batcave to get his Justice League countermeasures and hope that they'll work against the crime syndicate. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he has is a Sinestro Corps ring left over from the Sinestro Corps War, and he's kept it. And he goes up against Power Ring, which is Earth 3's Green Lantern, and he puts on the yellow ring. It's this really cool splash page where he says, like, beware my power. And like,
with our powers combined.
And he puts the ring on and he makes all these bat constructs that like attack Power Ring. But that particular Sinestro Corps ring has very little charge left in it and it runs out of power. But his using it draws Sinestro to Earth, and then they sort of recruit Sinestro to help them out.
So wait, I thought Sinestro was a bad guy, though.
He is...
But...
he's almost anti-heroic. He's definitely a villain, but like his goal is to enforce order, which, as you might imagine, includes
force order in the Corps War.
It includes like dictatorships.
Say that 3 times fast. Go.
Don't do it.
Enforce order in the Corps War. Enforce order in the Corps War.
Yeah, nice. But it includes, like being like an authoritarian leader and things like that, and like using lethal force and stuff like that. So he sees the Green Lanterns as being like weak law enforcement because they won't go far enough. So he's not necessarily evil for evil's sake. He's just going the bad route to a similar end goal. Like, he just wants peace, but he sees the only way to get peace as just like
destruction and doom.
Well, no, as like enforcing, like, this is the only way to have peace. You'll do what I say or you're out. Like, I'll kill you, basically. Whereas
either peace or peace out.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but giving like abilities to bad guys seems like that's not how you get peace.
Oh, it's not. Like, Sinestro's, that's why I say he's definitely a villain. But like,
some might say he's sinister.
Yeah, but there's a reason he was a Green Lantern in the first place, because that's what he was first. Like there is something good deep in him, and every once in a while you can call upon him to fight for the greater good, and it happens in Blackest Night, and it happens in all sorts of different stories. Forever Evil is one of them. But basically that. So Batman does actually use a Sinestro Corps ring in that one, but only for a very brief amount of time. Mm-hmm. Have other characters in Gotham wielded a yellow ring? Yes. Care to guess who?
The Joker.
Alfred.
Not the Joker, but who's the next obvious candidate in Gotham to wield a fear ring?
Alfred.
Oh, Scarecrow.
Oh, not Alfred.
So during Blackest... Just keep saying it. You'll make it happen.
Nobody knows a whole lot about Alfred. I'm just saying. He's pretty like...
Oh, what's this ring right here?
When I was in Burma, I found a child playing with a Sinestro ring the size of a tangerine.
So I picked it up.
Fernand Branca. That would be the construct he makes. Make up Fernand Branca.
This is delicious, but slightly fearful.
Yeah, exactly. So Scarecrow does get a Yellow Lantern ring. During Blackest Night, they briefly deputize like random inhabitants of Earth with the different colored rings so that they have more firepower to fight the Black Lanterns. So like Mira gets a red lantern ring, Lex Luthor gets an orange, one of the Guardians becomes...
Navel or Tangerine?
Yeah, Tangerine.
Nice.
The Flash,
Clementine fan.
The Flash gets a Blue Lantern ring. The Atom gets a Indigo ring.
An Indigo ring.
Wonder Woman gets a Star Sapphire ring, and the Scarecrow gets a Yellow Lantern ring. And it's the first time in a long time that he's able to kind of feel fear, because he's used his like fear toxin on himself so much that he's kind of, you can't feel it anymore.
Scares the shit out of himself.
Well, no, but I mean, he's like actually kind of on top of the world again until Lex Luthor, under the influence of an Orange Lantern like greed ring, sees that he's got a yellow one and says, "I want it," and rips it off his finger. Of
course.
So Scarecrow also only briefly gets a taste of the Sinestro Core ring.
Wow.
Until Lex Luthor takes it from him.
And then Lex goes around grabbing all the other rings.
He tries.
Amazing.
They actually have to like subdue him, but that's another story. But basically, yeah, so Batman...
That's for another story.
Batman has had a couple of opportunities. A couple of opportunities with a Sinestro Core ring. And so has the Scarecrow.
Cool.
Yeah.
Neat. So we're going to go over to Reddit. Curious Orion says, Sinestro and Parallax. That's a good thing to look up.
Yeah, it was kind of... Reddit, basically, it was all Sinestro.
I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, they literally wield the physical embodiment of fear, which is that yellow light. Now, the thing that we haven't talked about there is Parallax.
It's like cool when you go on our website and like the image moves, but the website doesn't.
Yeah. Have you been using like Wix or Squarespace or something?
Don't you fucking say those words around me.
So at any rate, Parallax is what's referred to as an emotional entity. So these different colors of light are like these different emotions. They're part of the emotional spectrum. But each emotional spectrum also has like a sentient form, which is the emotional entity. And Parallax is the emotional entity of fear. Some people listening at home will clue in and say that I've talked about Parallax before. And that's the name that Hal Jordan took when he became a supervillain in the 90s. And what they retconned later was that he had succumbed to fear after watching his hometown be destroyed, and it allowed Parallax, the fear thing, to take him as like a host body. And so he actually was Parallax, and that's why he took that name. So Parallax, as an emotional entity, is made of that yellow light of fear, but it can take a host and is super powerful because he's concentrated emotional energy, basically. At the current, I believe the way it is currently, all of the other emotional entities are, I shouldn't say dead, but they sacrifice themselves to replenish the emotional wellspring beyond the source wall in a very confusing story that I believe our friends at the Lantern Cast would rather forget. And Parallax, I think, currently is the only emotional entity left. I'm sure.
Clearly, I haven't met my ex-girlfriend.
Again,
She had a lot of problems.
you have no
We
excuse.
shouldn't air that out here. Jesus Christ. So yeah, Parallax, Sinestro has voluntarily, well, not voluntarily, he basically almost like made Parallax his slave, like forced himself to be the host of Parallax to increase his power. But Parallax has also taken control of obviously Hal Jordan, but also Kyle Rayner. He's also taken control of Barry Allen at one point. So Parallax briefly had access to the Speed Force. Barry Allen cashing checks all over the country. Parallax is a very, very powerful embodiment of fear. So that's an element of that Sinestro core that we haven't talked about yet. But there it is.
Are we really going to do this Barry Allen joke every time it comes around?
Yeah, mostly just because it kind of bothers you.
Yeah, it's super annoying. So we're going to go to email.
To the E and the mails, and they go to the emails.
Wow.
I'd say that's third worst.
While Richard longingly looks at the Stiegel Rattler,
I'm just looking at it.
thinking to himself, will this make my ulcer work? It's mostly just juice anyway.
Are we supposed to talk about medical conditions just out loud?
I've got an ulcer. I don't care. It's only got 2.5% alcohol. Like it's barely alcohol.
Juice.
If Richard's doctor is listening, why am I not your doctor? You know a doctor.
My neighbor's actually my doctor.
He probably heard you crack that quote-unquote beer.
It's dude, juice, man. Why are you doing this?
But it's so good.
Don't do this, man.
It was just like glistening next to me.
Do it to yourself. You do.
All right, if it hurts, then I'll know I made a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. So Sarah sent us an email and says, if the Greek gods exist in the DCU, then Phobos and Deimos must exist. I know there's also other characters with the same names. Do they have different powers?
Ooh, I like that question. A lot, actually.
I thought you would. I read it and I was like, oh, that's so Reed.
Yeah, that's a terrific question.
Doctor.
Good thing he's not here.
I mean, at this point, everyone pretty much knows who I am. I think my secret identity is only just tenuously better kept than Oliver Queen as the Green Arrow.
That's a good point.
Especially
Answer the question.
Wow, aggressive. So, yes, the first part of that, you're absolutely right. Because the Greek pantheon exists in the DC universe, then yes, Phobos and Deimos, which is fear and panic, I think, in Greek. That's the names of like the moons of Mars.
Sure.
So those characters do exist. They're part of the Greek pantheon. They are associated with Ares, who's the god of war. They definitely exist. And because they are god level, it means that they are in one way or another an embodiment of those things. So they not just have the power of like fear or is it? Yeah, fear and panic or whatever the translation is.
I have the power.
Yeah, but they actually kind of are those things. They sort of embody them. Now, there are characters with quote-unquote the same names. There isn't a different Phobos, but there is Phobia, who we talked about earlier in this episode. So Phobia has different powers because she isn't fear. Like, she's not a manifestation of fear, but she can use her psionic abilities to make people see their worst fears. So that's a slight difference between those two. In terms of Deimos, that's probably an even bigger difference. So the other character named Deimos is a sorcerer in the world of Skartaris, which is at the center of the earth. There's like another world. He's the arch enemy of the warlord. And
Warlord in the Cornwall.
God damn it. Yeah, so Deimos is a sorcerer. He's a very powerful magic user in this sort of almost Middle Ages, pseudo prehistoric world that exists, like dimension that exists at the center of our Earth. So he is this sort of tyrannical ruler of part of Skartaris, and the warlord is always sort of like freedom fighting against him. Most recently, Deimos was seen in...
Did you say Matt Deimos?
No, sorry. Most recently, that Deimos.
One brain tonight.
Oh my god.
One very bad brain.
Most
So
recently,
good that my half makes your half less racist.
that Deimos was seen in Convergence. He was on the planet Telos, and he was trying to harness the entire like power of that planet to basically make himself a god and control all of time. And he had like basically stolen the power of a bunch of like the Time Masters and like Per Degaton and stuff like that. So that Deimos also then has very different powers from the Greek god. But yeah, so there's Phobos and Deimos as part of the Greek pantheon, and then there's Phobia and Deimos, who are independent characters that share most of a name.
Well, goddamn.
And I will say that Phobia and the other Deimos don't really have a connection. So it's not like there's two kind of like pairs of characters. It's more just a coincidence than anything.
So
I love this. This is our last question.
yeah. So Gord says, "Hello, Doctor. Love the show. Saw the call for questions for this week's episode, and I have a very simple one for you. What is your greatest fear?
Colin and Richard are welcome to answer as well.
Oh, Jesus. That is pitch black.
Oh, that got added in at the end?
No, it just did. For whatever reason, I didn't realize it had bled to the third page.
You have to learn how to space the pages, my friend. Like,
Are you calling him out for actually preparing things for you?
God.
If people only knew.
Yeah, jeez.
All the work that I put into this.
Colin's been reading cue cards this whole episode.
I don't even read it till I get into the recording studio. But I have a job to do, man.
That's right.
You can't go making me tell San Diego to go fuck themselves with a teleprompter.
Deep cut. So, what is my greatest fear? That's such a dark question to ask a person.
I know. I'm really excited
Stranger,
about
nonetheless.
Yeah, stranger. Yeah, I want. Like, is this like giving out your address? Should I not answer this?
I think someone's just like waiting in the bushes and like, yes. What is it?
Yeah, give me a list of your fears.
His greatest fear is bushes.
I'll tell you a couple of things that I do have a bit of like a fear. I don't have any straight up phobias. Like,
really?
Like nothing, like when you see people on TV and they go like catatonic when they like see like a cat or whatever, right? Like I don't have anything like that.
They go catatonic?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Jeez.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things that I don't particularly care for. I will say I do have a bit of
coming up on the top 10 list.
Yeah. Oh, it's not that many. Or I'm not going to give that many away, rather. I do have a bit of a fear of spiders. But it's very much about like the circumstances. Like if I'm outside and a spider crawls on my leg, that doesn't really bother me. But if I'm like in a car and a spider is like in the seat next to me, that car's going off the road. It's like, it's the size of the spider versus like the size of the space I'm in.
Hey, Doc.
Yeah.
No, don't move.
If you want this equipment to survive, don't tell me there's a spider.
Then move all you want. That's fine.
Yeah. So that's one. And I'll say the other one is like open heights. I'm okay in airplanes. I'm fine on roller coasters if they have like the shoulder harness. But like high dives, I can't do.
What about the CN Tower, the glass floor?
I don't love it, but I can do it because you're inside. But I will never do the edge walk. You will never see me on the outside of the top of the CN Tower. That's crazy. Never gonna happen.
So we're never gonna get a Doctor DC photo?
No. Yeah, you're not gonna get that. You're never gonna see me skydive or bungee jump or anything like that. But I mean, I can. Like I said, I can go on roller coasters if they've got that shoulder strap and I feel like I'm really in there. But yeah, so like heights and spiders, I guess, are the two big ones.
I love that you trust carnies.
What, that carnies aren't one of my fears?
Well, no, like you're okay with roller coasters so long as like some jackass who gets paid $12 an hour like straps you and is like, don't move a whole lot, okay?
Well, yeah, but it's not like it's like a traveling roller coaster. It's not like they pack it up onto a carriage and take it to the next town. Like when you go to an amusement park, like that's built. That's like in the ground.
But you hear about
Springfield,
like
Ogdenville,
all the time.
Yeah.
North Haverhill.
Do either of you guys want to answer this?
You want to go?
I guess so. I'm not afraid of a whole lot of stuff. I grew up in the Yukon. There's a lot of crazy shit out here that people probably take for granted.
Out here, you mean? Out there?
Out there.
Yeah, where we aren't right now?
Where we aren't right now. Yeah, totally. I don't know. I think probably...
I also fear the orbital strike.
I also fear people are going to find out this podcast and where we are and come get us.
Yeah, come get us.
I don't think we're that important. I probably like my biggest fear
no one would miss us.
Is dying in my sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a very... like
a real.
Yeah.
Well, no, like... And I've
mine sounds super petty now.
I've had a lot of time to like think about
Just
it.
wait till mine.
I don't like high dives.
And explaining it is like, I've had a lot of people ask me like, "Are you serious? That's so stupid. That seems like the most peaceful way to die." But I have.
I'd much rather die drowning.
Well, no, but like I have
set on fire.
I have a very active imagination and brain, and so I've always been very afraid of the fact that like if I died in my sleep, would I believe it? So like I'd be like in heaven or hell or nowhere, and just be like, all right, I like that in this joke's over.
I like that we get a little bit of like your like view of like reality though, that like you're dead, but you're aware.
Yeah.
I think that's
a little bit into your belief structure there.
I like that. It's a little window into Colin's soul. I like that.
I don't know. if there's nothing,
I like that. We're talking about the thing you fear the most.
I don't really give a shit.
Yeah,
Like, if there's
that.
nothing that's
I was
cool.
wondering if
like
it was
that
one of
a
those
lot.
things where the part of the fear is that you've left things unfinished, that if you die in your sleep, you don't know it's coming. And so like you can't have made the most of like the day before or things
Well, no,
that.
like the reality for me in terms of this stuff is that like at any point any of us could be shot at with a rocket launcher or whatever the fuck.
Especially if
Doesn't
we
really
keep
matter.
giving away our location.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the thing of it for me is just the like that lack of control.
Right.
At
Sure.
the end,
Yeah, no,
where it's like
I hear that.
I would like to be able to have like a physical and cognitive decision to be like, okay, I'm letting it.
You want to do like the elven thing where they like decide and then it's done.
Well, that or like a plane crash or like I don't know,
Oh,
like being shot.
that's
to
a
death.
little less elven.
Like in one of those like movies where the bad guy puts his arms out to the sides.
Oh,
Like he's across, he's like, no,
Right.
Like I'd be okay with that. That'd be a fun way to go. Stuff like that.
Right.
Being able to say like one last cool thing before you die.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
and
if you're in like
That's
a
your
plane-
real fear.
If you're
if you're asleep, you don't get a one-liner.
yeah, exactly. Like if you're in a, I watched 22.
treasure is buried in the. Ugh.
He just wakes up and he's like, oh, looks like someone fell asleep at the wheel.
So dark.
No, but like I watched 22 Jump Street on the weekend.
Yeah.
And there's a part where he like throws the grenade up and he's like, say something cool. And he's like, something cool. And so they're like on the beach and he's like, well, what'd you say? And he's like, something cool. And he's like, yeah, what was it? What'd you say? He's like, something cool. And it's kind of like that whole like dude sweet thing.
Who's on first?
Yeah.
No, it's like the whole dude sweet thing.
It's a little bit like
Who's on first?
It's kind of like
Richard, did you want to answer this question?
Sure. Though
before we run out of tape.
mine is a phobia.
Oh, is it actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a kind of twofer, but basically one.
Right.
So it's you can either call it thalassophobia,
Ooh, what does that mean?
which is the fear of deep ocean or the sea in general.
Oh, I
Oh,
thought you were going to say you were terrified of philosophers.
no, not thalassa.
Thalassophobia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So if
You're afraid of Mike Tyson being a philosopher.
So I'm afraid of the depths of the ocean.
Sure.
And then also submechanophobia, which is basically the fear of like heavy machinery, and large objects underwater.
Right. So this kind of means that like you're out for like cruises or things like that. Like
So this is actually a conversation that my wife and I have had a lot of
Right.
about, because she really is she's like gotten on a cruise kick lately where she's just very interested in the idea of it, and like that you can have these, like each cruise can be very different and like these little packages, and
Right.
the problem is my whole thing is I have to see land the whole time.
Okay. Right.
So I'm pretty good at like handling fears and stuff. Like I am a little afraid of heights. Like
Right.
flying in prop planes is not always
Yeah. I mean, there's
super awesome.
Yeah. That's right.
But the ocean thing is pretty real. Now I'm not afraid of like lakes or anything like that. Like that's
It's specifically ocean.
the ocean. It's like the depths and like the like.
But it's not like a perception thing, because some of those like Great Lakes, you can't really see the other
Oh, no,
side.
no, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Does that feel like ocean to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So the worst things is like there's many a Reddit page on there for some people who want to torture themselves.
Right.
But it's like the idea of like, I was looking it up today because I saw this question and I was like, does this still bother me? It definitely bothers me.
Right.
There's a bunch of Reddit pages on it, which just shows you stuff that are terrifying to me. But yes, like the idea of like a sunken ship. Now, if you just show me the ship and I don't have a concept of how deep it is, it's okay. Like watching the Titanic was totally fine because you don't really, it's just kind of like that could have been shot anywhere.
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't really feel like it's at the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
But once you get that concept of something like that,
Right.
like, because you're only ever seeing like portions of the ship at a time, right? But like if I saw like a whale, that's scary, or like
Right.
a giant squid,
Right.
I know where that is.
The Kraken. Yeah.
I know the how big that needs to be there
Sure.
for the thing that's holding it.
Interesting.
So yes, very like, and people found this out, and people find it very funny to text me photos
Oh,
of,
that's so
of
neat.
things that including my wife
Oh, wow.
and one of my close friends.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's very funny. So yes,
Interesting.
nah.
Well, then I'll just like end it off on
Yeah.
this note. Then, if we were somehow deemed to have the willpower befitting of a Green Lantern,
Oh.
the thing we would all have to do is be able, not necessarily to not be afraid, but to push past what that fear is. And the best example of that is one of the most recent Green Lanterns of Earth. Her name is Jessica Cruz. She starts off as someone who is so like agoraphobic. She just stays in her, like she literally cannot go outside or be around people. And she eventually gets a Green Lantern ring, and her whole like journey has been about like pushing past her fear. It's actually like a really great little arc and story, but that is something that we would all have to do if we wanted to be members of the Green Lantern
So we could do
Corps.
it together and like jump off like a tall building into the ocean and then fall asleep.
I mean, I wouldn't be much of a Green Lantern if I couldn't fly or like go to space or like anything
true.
like that. So yeah, I would totally have to do that. Yeah, but there we go. That was all the questions, I think.
That was it. If you would like to
Talk about your phobias.
If you want to send us a list of your fears,
Or just terrify me and send photos of like sunken ships.
yeah, that's right.
you can do so at our Facebook page, which is
Doctor DC Podcast
at our Twitter, which is also
at Doctor DC,
at our email account,
DrDCPodcast@gmail.com,
on the website,
DrDCPodcast.com or .ca,
or you can just post those creepy pictures for Richard on our Instagram at
Doctor DC Podcast.
They don't know my Instagram name, luckily.
Should I give it out?
No, God, no.
It's
Also, remember to go to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe, and let us know if you do it, because one, we'd like to hear that, and maybe you can let us know what you said, and we'll say it on here, and hopefully one day iTunes will be as wonderful as it always is and post it so we can see it.
yeah, you know, iTunes, that thing that's great.
Day of week.
Day of week. Yeah. 5-star reviews. Leave a what Colin does, and we'll do it on the air.
well, some kind of sign off.
Adios.
Fuck, I got nothing.
Cobras.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.